up next week, we got the David Benavidez, Caleb Plant fight.
Right.
If you want to check out our thoughts on that video, it's on our page. So, like, subscribe, comment, check out our additional videos. But the undercard, Rayo and Chris Colbert. Chris Colbert's nickname, what is it? Primetime? I think his name is Primetime. So Colbert and Primetime. Both coming off what I would consider embarrassing losses for them.
100%.
And they both have a lot to prove. So what are your thoughts on that fight?
So I do think that they both got a chip on their shoulder. I do think that they both was going to have to come in, prove their worth. I know that Chris Colbert had an interview where he said, he was a bit comfortable, even going into the Hector Garcia fight, which he paid for, right? So he said he's coming in more focused than ever, and he's looking to kind of get this fight and then get the immediate rematch with Hector Garcia if he can, right? So he's definitely motivated for sure, right? And that's not to say that Jose Venezuela is not motivated, right? But I don't know. I just feel like Chris Colbert, if I was to kind of give a fight prediction, I would probably say Chris Colbert. See, that's the thing. I'm not a believer in Chris Colbert, but I do think he has the necessary skills to win this fight, right? Especially he's the more, I would say, slick fighter, right? He can hit with both hands, but I don't know if he can kind of, sustain his cardio, especially with these type of fighters, especially with Jose. Jose's the bigger fighter, right? We got to see if he can kind of withstand some of those punches. So for me, I think it's a 50-50 fight, but I'm probably leaning towards Chris Colbert winning that fight by decision.
I was actually hoping you pick Rayo because I've been leaning towards Chris Colbert too, and I didn't want us to just completely agree. But Rayo, I think they both got embarrassed, but I think I don't know which one was worse, but I know Rayo really got like embarrassed last fight, right?
So coming in there. What was the fighter's name? What was it?
It slips my mind, to be honest with you.
Some unknown. Well, at least for me, I'm not, an expert in the boxing scene when it comes to lower tier fighters, but I know some guy named Santos. I just don't know much about him. But I did see that fight, and that was
he did it to Rayo, and so I think Rayo's gonna come out there to prove a point. I do think he's going to come in, conscious of what happened. But I do think he's going to come in and prove a point. And I think Chris Colbert's slickness is going to play into his advantage. And I think Chris is probably going to outpoint him. I don't see either of them getting stopped. I got Colbert winning a split decision in this fight. I think it's going to be a very good fight. I think it's a great co-main. I really want to see it. I think Colbert's slickness, though, I think that's going to be the difference in the fight. But it's going to be interesting to see what kind of punching power he carries up to 135. I believe this is his first fight at 135. Rayo's comfortable at the weight. So that could be huge as well.
Great point.
So, I mean, I'm definitely going to be tuned into that one. 135 pound division's on fire. I saw Keyshawn Davis, Shakur Stevenson get into it with Errol Spence last night on Twitter. Talking about, of course, the 135 Frank the Ghost Martin, somebody who I'm a big fan of. Of course, I'm a fan of Shakur Stevenson as well. Keyshawn Davis, I think, still, of course, Olympic pedigree, but still has a lot to prove in the pros. But if you didn't see the back and forth, Keyshawn Davis, he said on the undercard of Crawford Spence, please let me have Frank Martin. So of course Errol responded, but Errol's opinion is that Shakur and Frank would be a better fight. So let me ask you, what do you think? Which one do you think is a better fight? Keyshawn Frank or Shakur Frank?
I think Shakur Frank is definitely the better matchup for two reasons. The first reason is because Frank thus far has been dominating, right, his opponents to a degree that we haven't even seen Keyshawn Davis, do, right? I think that he's grinded out more of his success in the pro field as opposed to Keyshawn Davis, right? And I do think that if he matches up with Shakur Stevenson, I think that can be a great fight, right? Because then now we can really see how great of a fighter Frank Martin is, right? Especially someone that, you know, started boxing a bit late compared to, you know, Shakur Stevenson. The second point is Shakur Stevenson been asking for, you know, some of the big fights, right? He's been asking to fight Pitbull Cruz. He's been asking to fight some of these other fighters, but they kind of been a bit wary, which they've also admitted they're not really looking to take that fight right now. So a bit ducking there, but that's, you know, that's another conversation. So I do think that will be a fantastic fight. Although I believe Shakur will win that fight, I think it will just be, you know, a fantastic fight nonetheless, especially with Shakur Stevenson moving up into the 135 division, especially.
Yeah. I do think Shakur and Frank's a better fight. I think Frank beats Keyshawn Davis right now. I think Keyshawn Davis probably only has 7 fights. I think 7 fights. Yeah, I think that's what Errol was alluding to, where he says top rank still has like the pup on like breastfeeding or something like that. You know, some analogy about, you know, Keyshawn just being, you know, very young in his career. I think Shakur would be a better fight for Frank. I think it'd be a very interesting fight because I think Shakur, another guy who potential's through the roof, but right now with 0 fights at 135, I would still consider him next tier. Right. Obviously, I know what Shakur is. I know what he's done at 130. I even expect him to do similar things at 135, but just because he hasn't yet, I'm not going to put him at the front with Devin Haney, Gervonta Davis, even not even a Lomachenko yet, just because they've done more at the weight. But I fully expect Shakur to, you know, shoot right up into that top tier as well. But it still has to happen, right? So, but Frank, I also think is a next. I think Frank is cracking on the top tier as well. So I think that would be an excellent fight. You know, like Frank, I would list as next tier with like a Pitbull Cruz, right? They're like knocking on the top tier, but they're not there yet. But I really, really like Frank, and I think him versus Shakur would be like a really interesting chess match. Shakur has some of the best timing in boxing, very elusive.
Absolutely.
But Frank's also an elusive fighter, how he's earned the nickname the Ghost. And I think he has more punching power. And I just really like Derek James in his corner. When people listen to Derek James, I think it oftentimes you like in the like between rounds, right? You hear Derek give some advice, and usually when the fighters listen to the advice, I feel like that's where they start pulling away in the fight. But Shakur is an excellent fighter. Definitely, I think that one would go 12 rounds. It would be. I think it would probably be Shakur. I would have to lean Shakur right now, but I would not count Frank out. I think that could be a great fight as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. You have 2 terrific fighters. One who has the athletic ability, right? The other one that's just overall talented, cerebral, and how they take on those fights. So so it's yeah, we'll have to just wait and see. But yeah, a lot of people are big on Shakur for sure. So it's which is funny too, because when you hear matchups, people constantly say, "Oh, Shakur could beat." A lot more people usually pick Shakur to beat the Devin Haney's and actually be the one to actually beat Tank Davis, you know what I mean? Which I don't really fully agree with, but a lot of people are, you know, that are around him that are in the actual boxing scene, you know, they probably see something that I don't, you know?
Yeah. I think he's a great fighter, but I do hear that a lot. You know, the majority of people I do think pick Shakur to beat Devin. I thought their sparring was pretty even, but that means nothing now to where they've grown in their careers, right? A lot of people do say if someone can upset Tank, they do think it's Shakur. I think he's a great talent. I'm just not sure because I think him and Devin will be a great fight still. And I even perhaps lean Devin, but I wouldn't be surprised if Shakur wins, but I wouldn't be surprised if Devin wins. I know Shakur has a fight coming up. He's fighting the guy who stopped Nakatani. What's the guy's name who stopped Nakatani?
I forget his name. Yoshino.
Yeah, he stopped Nakatani earlier.
Yoshino.
He stopped Nakatani earlier than Lomachenko did. Shakur's gonna fight him. I feel like Shakur is probably gonna win like an easy fight, unanimous decision. I'm not sure that Shakur stops him, but he probably wins 11 or 12 out of 12 rounds, right? And then from there, let's see if he can get, you know, any of the more competitive fighters at 135. I know he said he's been trying, he's been struggling. Kind of disappointed the Pitbull Cruz fight didn't happen. I think Pitbull Cruz and those guys made like a business decision there. But you know, I don't agree with it. So I hope they can circle back. I think their excuse was something along the lines of they're looking for exciting fights. You know, the Gervonta just skyrocketed him into Pitbull's like an undercard star, right? You want him on your undercard to get fans engaged and ready for the main event, right?
Yep.
So, but it has to be like shootout fights, you know, guys just coming in there throwing punches. Shakur is gonna make it like a very clean fight, right? You're not gonna be able to hit him. It's not going to be as exciting. Pitbull might be swinging at the air. Not to say Pitbull doesn't have a chance there, but I'm just saying it'll probably be not. It definitely not going to be Gamboa.
It's definitely. Oh my God, he destroyed Gamboa. Jesus.
Yeah, so they made a business.
He sent them to the gulag.
Yeah.
Sent them right to the gulag.
So they made a business decision, but not necessarily the right one, because they want to put on entertaining fights. But what that would have done for his career if he beats Shakur.
Oh my God.
I think it's better than him just going to go knock out another guy that no one really knows, you know?
100%.
So I don't know. 135 is on fire though. Definitely one of the best divisions out there. I remember years past, I thought it was the welterweight division, but I think the lightweight division has definitely taken that over.
100%. Yeah, it definitely surpassed the welterweight division, especially like with fighters leaving the welterweight division. Danny Garcia, right, moved up. Sean Porter retired, right? So it's definitely a second. It's probably the best division right now in boxing in terms of talent, right? In terms of the best fights being made, you can argue 154, right?
Yeah,
but, yeah, man. It's we got a lot of, you know, cooking up to do this shit, man.
Yeah.
Sure.
Definitely. Another one of our videos that's out there. I know the fight took place. Tim Tszyu stopped Tony Harrison.
Yes,
we gave our fight predictions in that one. So definitely, if you're looking out for some fight predictions, check out our videos. The comments definitely help. Subscribe, like, share with your friends. 2 cents short of $1. We have a lot more coming. Anything you want to leave them with, Motiz?
Oh, no, nothing else. Just to kind of piggyback off of what you said, definitely, you know, like, subscribe, comment, because it can kind of help the channel grow, definitely. You know, and we appreciate, you know, you just tuning in, you know, so help us get to one day 1 million subscribers, right?
So until next time, 2 cents short of $1, we'll be here keeping it 100.